We can't have essentially what is a terrorist criminal group deciding that they want to be the malware of the sea and to do these sorts of things. If we do that, we send out a message to Somali pirates to start again. We send out a message to China to start closing down bits of the South and East China Sea. And every choke point or strait in the world then becomes a hostage for the world economy.
The Houthis have vowed that the UK and US strikes on their positions in Yemen won't go without punishment or retaliation. The Iran-backed group has pledged to continue attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Earlier today, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak explained the rationale for the attacks.
Well, over the last month, we've seen a significant increase in the number of Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. That's putting innocent lives at risk. It's disrupting the global economy, and it's also destabilizing the region. And in that time, we've also seen the single biggest attack on a Navy warship, a British Navy warship, that we've seen in decades. Now, it's clear that that type of behavior can't carry on. That's why we joined with allies in issuing very public condemnation of this behaviour, and it's why I made the decision with allies to take what I believe to be necessary, proportionate and targeted action against military targets to degrade and disrupt Houthi capability. We won't hesitate to protect lives and ensure the safety of commercial shipping.
I'm joined now by Chris Parry, who's a former Royal Navy Rear Admiral, who's also served as a Director General at the Ministry of Defence and as a NATO commander. Chris, thank you so much for joining us on the programme.
Good afternoon.
In terms of the strikes themselves, what do we know about the infrastructure that was hit?
Well, we know that there were over 60 attacks on what we think are 16 sites across Yemen that are housing the capabilities that both support and operate the systems that have been fired against both our warships and against commercial shipping in the Red Sea. And that includes sensors, I think storage sites for drones, and also missile launchers as well. I think it's an exemplary attack. I think it's designed to get the Houthis' attention. And what we're saying is, look, this is what we can do to you. If you want more of this, then carry on what you're doing. If you don't like it, now's the time to talk and give up.
Well, I mean, there'll be some people that have woken up this morning to hear that the UK and US have launched joint airstrikes on some people a long way away and gone, crikey, where did that come from? But there has been a persistent level of aggression in the Red Sea. So rebels attacking ships, commercial ships, whether they're British, under British flags, American flags, or anybody else's flags. And then when people sent their navies there to protect the commercial shipping, the navies got attacked as well. So this has been escalating for some time, hasn't it?
Well, yes, Ruth. I mean, we know what the Houthis are like. They're, a vicious, violent faction within Yemen's politics. And the issue is that what they're trying to do here is both act as Iran's proxies in the margins of the war of Israel against Hamas, but at the same time trying to promote their own sort of brand, if you like, and show they're there. This can't be tolerated. The sea is governed by international law. The Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandab Strait are international straits, and mariners are supposed to be able to go about their lawful occasions. And we can't have essentially what is a terrorist criminal group deciding that they want to be the malware of the sea and to do these sorts of things. If we do that, we send out a message to Somali pirates to start again. We send out a message to China to start closing down bits of the South and East China Sea. And every choke point or strait in the world then becomes a hostage for the world economy.
Well, the headlines are obviously the UK and the US doing this sort of military action. There are connotations, particularly in that area of the world, about what that means and what kind of coalition that is. But I'm looking about some of the countries that have been giving non-strike support. So the Netherlands, Australia, Canada, Bahrain. These are not the usual suspects here. These are not saber-rattling, belligerent nations, are they?
Well, I like to think we're not either.
Sorry, that wasn't yeah, by omission. That's what you heard. But however, in terms of some of the voices, that have already
talking for Scotland or the United Kingdom, yeah.
Well, I always talk for the United Kingdom, as you well know.
Yeah, I know. But you didn't mention claymores either. So yeah, absolutely. No. I mean, look, United States and the United Kingdom are part of the free world. What we've got in the world today at the moment is a a two-block system, essentially, where you've got the Eurasian autocrats of Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, and they are confronting what I call the maritime democracies, United States, Canada, Britain, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and they're putting pressure on points of the international system where they think they can push us off balance. And we're seeing it in Ukraine, in the Black Sea. We're seeing it here in the Red Sea, in the margins of the Israel war. And we've got to start getting sensible of the fact that we have a lot of conflicts at the moment that are starting to look joined up. Our totalitarian opponents are starting to try and take us on with proxy wars and these encounter actions in various parts of the globe at the moment.
Well, I'm old enough to have lived through a few areas where it felt like the sands of the world were shifting, whether that was some of the Velvet Revolutions and the Berlin Wall coming down and the breakup of the Warsaw Pact nations in Europe, whether that was the Arab Spring a few years ago, which maybe didn't live up to some of the potential that we'd felt. This feels like the world is also cusping, that it's on the cusp of making a decision about whether autocrats are going to supersede liberal Western democracies or whether liberal Western democracies have the kind of grit, really, for the fight to keep their place in the world.
Ruth, neither you or I are old enough to remember the 1930s, but I'm a historian, and quite a lot of the rhetoric and quite a lot of the dynamic at the moment is resonant of the late 1930s, where the free world had to face up to fascist and communist regimes. They're replicated now by Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. And I'm afraid to say we are reaching an inflection point. We've lived in a time of global peace for quite some time. But I think, as you say, the sands are shifting. And unless we confront what is a very serious threat to our liberties and our way of life, not just from those states, but also from what I call weaponized Islamism, then we're going to find all the things we take for granted are going to be up for a fight.
Okay, well, look, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. That's Chris Parry there, former Royal Navy Rear Admiral, also former Director General at the MOD and also a NATO commander.